HBR's 10 Must-Reads on Strategy Volume 2, by Harvard Business Review Press. Introduction. Imagine it's 2007. You're standing in a boardroom at Nokia, the undisputed king of the mobile phone world. Life is good. Your company, along with 4 other giants, controls a staggering 90% of the industry's global profits. You have the best engineers, the most trusted brand, and a distribution network that reaches every corner of the planet. You are, for all intents and purposes, invincible. Then, a company that makes computers and music players announces it's making a phone. It has no buttons. No experience in the mobile industry. It's a curiosity, a toy. You might even laugh it off. But that company was Apple. And that phone was the iPhone. By 2015, just 8 years later, the world had been turned upside down. The iPhone wasn't just a success, it was a phenomenon, single-handedly generating 92% of the entire industry's profits. And Nokia, the invincible king? It was a ghost, its profits gone, its market share vanished. How does this happen? How does a titan with every classic advantage, brand, scale, technology, logistics, get dismantled so quickly and completely by a newcomer? Was the iPhone simply a better product? Not entirely. The truth is much deeper, and it's the central mystery we're going to unravel today. Nokia didn't fail because it built bad phones. It failed because it was playing an old game with old rules, while Apple had created a brand new one. Nokia was building a pipeline. Apple built a platform. Nokia was defending a fortress. Apple was cultivating an ecosystem. The story of their battle is the story of modern strategy. It's a high-stakes game where the rules are constantly changing, and where the difference between winning and losing isn't about being bigger or stronger, but about being smarter and more adaptable. The book we are diving into today, HBR's 10 Must-Reads on Strategy, Volume 2, is a treasure map for navigating this new world. It's a collection of the most profound, game-changing ideas from the brightest minds at Harvard Business Review. These aren't just theories, they are field-tested principles that explain why some companies thrive in chaos while others crumble. My promise to you is this: by the end of our time together, you won't just know what strategy is. You'll understand the hidden forces that govern why some ideas take flight and change the world, while others, even brilliant ones, never get off the ground. You'll learn to see the world not as it is, but as it could be. And you'll walk away with a toolkit for thinking that will serve you for the rest of your life, whether you're launching a company from your dorm room, leading a team, or simply trying to navigate your own path in a complex and unpredictable world. This isn't just about business. It's about how to win. So, let's begin. Book summary. Let's imagine a young entrepreneur. We'll call her Clara. Clara has a brilliant idea, a new technology that she believes could change everything. Like so many ambitious founders, her first instinct is to lock herself in a room for 6 months and write the perfect business plan. A 50-page document, filled with 5-year financial projections, detailed market analysis, and a step-by-step plan for execution. It's the way it's always been done. You build the plan, you get the money, you build the product, and then you launch it to the world. But as the thinkers in this collection would tell us, Clara is starting her journey on the wrong foot. She's falling for what one of the book's authors, Steve Blank, calls the fallacy of the perfect business plan. He argues that this traditional approach is the #1 reason why 75% of all startups fail. Why? Because a business plan is a static document built on a series of untested guesses. And as the boxer Mike Tyson famously said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. For a startup, that punch comes the very first day it tries to sell something to a real customer. This is the first great lesson of modern strategy. For a new venture, strategy isn't about execution, it's about search. Startups, Blank tells us, are not smaller versions of big companies. Large companies execute a known business model. Startups are on a quest to find a profitable, scalable business model. So, what should Clara do instead? She should adopt the lean startup methodology. Instead of a business plan, she creates a one-page business model canvas, which is just a simple chart outlining her 9 most important hypotheses about her business. Who are my customers? What value do I offer them? How will I reach them? How will I make money? These are all just guesses. The next step isn't to write a long document defending them. It's to get out of the building. She needs to go talk to real, potential customers. Not to sell them anything, but to learn. To listen. She shows them a minimum viable product, or MVP, the simplest, most basic version of her idea that still solves a core problem. It might just be a drawing, a slide deck, or a clunky prototype. The goal is to get feedback, fast. If she learns her initial idea is wrong, she doesn't see it as a failure. She sees it as learning. She can then make a small change, an iteration, or a big one, a pivot, to a whole new direction. This cycle of building, measuring, and learning is the engine of a lean startup. It's a process that values experimentation over elaborate planning, and customer feedback over intuition. As Clara starts this process, she quickly runs into a bigger question. She's getting all this feedback, but the world seems so confusing. Some customers want one thing, competitors are doing another, and the technology is changing every month. How does she make sense of it all? This is where she discovers the second powerful idea from our collection. Your strategy needs a strategy. The authors Martin Reeves, Claire Love, and Philip Tillmans explain that there isn't one single best way to make strategy. The right approach depends entirely on the environment you're operating in. They lay out a simple, brilliant framework to help you figure this out, based on 2 questions. First, how predictable is your environment? Can you forecast demand, market share, and performance with any degree of accuracy? Second, how malleable is it? Do you have the power to change the industry and shape the future, or do you have to take the environment as a given? Based on the answers, 4 distinct strategic styles emerge. If your environment is predictable but you can't change it, think of the oil and gas industry. You use a classical strategy. This is the one they teach in business school. Analyze, plan, execute. You build a strong position and defend it like a fortress. But what if your environment is unpredictable, and you still can't change it? This is the world of fast fashion or specialty retail, where tastes change overnight. Here, a 5-year plan is useless. You need an adaptive strategy. The goal isn't to be the most efficient, it's to be the most flexible. You run small experiments, you learn, you adapt. You're not building a fortress, you're learning to ride the waves. Now, what if the environment is unpredictable, but you can change it? This is the wild world of new, high-growth industries like social networking in its early days. Here, you use a shaping strategy. You don't just adapt to the future, you create it. You build a platform, you invite others, customers, suppliers, even competitors, to join you, and you set the new rules of the game. This is what Facebook did when it opened its platform to outside developers, creating an ecosystem that left MySpace in the dust. Finally, what if the environment is predictable and you have the power to change it? This is rare, but it's where legends are made. This calls for a visionary strategy. This is the build it and they will come approach. It's what entrepreneurs like Edison did with electricity, or what UPS did in the 1990s. They saw the rise of e-commerce coming and knew that online retailers would need a way to get packages to people's doorsteps. They bet billions on this predictable future they could help create, and they won, capturing 60% of the e-commerce delivery market. For Clara, understanding this framework is a revelation. She realizes she's been trying to use a classical, fortress building strategy in a world that is highly unpredictable and, for a small startup like hers, highly malleable. She needs to be a shaper. Armed with this new clarity, Claire and her company, let's call it Apex Innovations, achieve some early success. They've found a business model that works, and they've built a product that customers love. They feel like they've finally made it. They've built their advantage. And this is the most dangerous moment in any company's life. Because right here, another of our great thinkers, Rita Gunther McGrath, steps in with a sobering message. The whole idea of a sustainable competitive advantage is dead. In today's world, she argues, we are living in an era of transient advantage. For decades, the holy grail of strategy was to build an advantage that would last for years, a deep moat around your business that competitors couldn't cross. But today, with globalization, the digital revolution, and fewer barriers to entry, that moat is more like a puddle. Any advantage you have can evaporate in less than a year. Think about it. A new feature can be copied in weeks. A new business model can be replicated in months. Trying to hold on to one single advantage is a recipe for disaster. The new playbook, McGrath says, is to constantly launch new strategic initiatives, building and exploiting many transient advantages at once. Though each one is temporary, as a portfolio, they can keep you in the lead over the long run. This requires a completely different mindset. You have to get comfortable with continuous change. You have to be willing to disengage from old advantages, even when they're still profitable, to reallocate resources to the next big thing. McGrath charts the life cycle of any advantage. It begins with a launch, where you identify an opportunity. Then you ramp up, bringing the idea to scale. Next, if you're lucky, you get a period of exploitation, where you capture profits. But soon, competitors will emerge, and you must reconfigure your advantage to keep it fresh. And finally, when the advantage is completely eroded, you must have the discipline to disengage, freeing up resources for the next wave. Most established companies are only good at the exploitation phase. They are built for stability. But to survive today, you have to master the entire cycle, over and over again. Just as Claire and her team at Apex are absorbing this idea, they see a small, quirky competitor emerge. It offers a simpler, cheaper version of their product. It's not as good, but it's good enough for a small group of customers at the bottom of the market. The executives at Apex dismiss it. They're not our customers, they say. Their product can't do what ours can. This is the classic mistake that brings down giants. And it leads us to the work of the legendary Clayton Christensen, who, with his co-author Maxwell Vessel, explains how to survive the most potent threat of all, disruption. Disruptive innovations, they explain, are like missiles launched at your business. They don't start by attacking you head-on. They start at the low end of the market, in places you don't care about, serving customers you don't want. And then, relentlessly, they get better. They move upmarket, and by the time you recognize them as a threat, it's often too late. Personal computers disrupted mainframes. Digital photography made film obsolete. The traditional advice has been to disrupt yourself before you are disrupted. But Christensen and Vessel offer a more nuanced approach. Not all disruptive missiles, they say, are destined for a direct hit. Some might just graze you, and others might miss entirely. The key is to analyze the missile's trajectory. To do this, you need to understand three things. First, what is the disruptor's advantage? Specifically, what is their extendable core? The part of their business model that allows them to maintain their performance advantage as they creep up market? For PCs, it was using standardized components, which allowed them to get more powerful while staying cheap. Second, what is your own relative advantage? And this is crucial. Your advantage isn't defined by your product's features. It's defined by the job that customers are hiring your product to do. A teenager might hire a movie theater not just to watch a film, but to get out of the house on a date. A DVD can't do that job. Understanding the real job to be done reveals your true, sustainable strengths. Third, you must evaluate the barriers the disruptor would have to overcome to co-opt your advantages. These can range from a simple momentum barrier, customers are just used to your way of doing things, to the most difficult of all, the business model barrier, the disruptor would have to adopt your higher cost structure, destroying their own advantage. By analyzing these three factors, Clara and her team at Apex can see which parts of their business are truly vulnerable and which parts they can defend. They realize that they can't fight the disruption by simply lowering prices or adding features. That's a losing game. Instead, they must focus on innovating to do the jobs their core customers truly value, the jobs the disruptor's model is ill-suited to perform. They also begin to invest in their own disruptive innovation in a separate business unit, preparing for the future. Apex is now a more mature, resilient company. They've learned to be lean and adaptive. They understand that their advantages are temporary, and they're constantly scanning the horizon for disruptive threats. But how do they grow in a way that is both sustainable and manageable? The temptation is to chase every new opportunity, to diversify, to add complexity. This, warn authors Chris Zook and James Allen, is the path to ruin. The most successful companies, they found in their research, don't grow by doing more things. They grow by finding their great repeatable business model. Differentiation, they argue, is the essence of strategy. You earn money by being different from your competitors in a way that serves your core customers better. The sharper your differentiation, the greater your advantage. Nike's differentiation lies in its brand, its connection with athletes, and its performance-focused design. Apple's is in its user-friendly software, its integrated ecosystem, and its elegant simplicity. The problem is that as companies grow, they tend to add complexity. New products, new divisions, new processes. This complexity strangles growth. It blurs the very differentiation that made the company successful in the first place. The antidote is to identify the 1, 2, or at most 3 core differentiators that are your company's crown jewels. What makes you truly unique? Then, the secret to growth is to replicate that differentiation in new markets, over and over again. It's about finding a simple, repeatable formula. Olam International, a global agribusiness, started by trading cashews. Their unique, repeatable model was managing the supply chain directly from the farmer's gate to the customer's door, cutting out middlemen. This gave them better market intelligence and stronger supplier relationships. They then applied this exact same model to cotton, and then to coffee, and then to cocoa beans. They now source 20 different products from 65 countries, all built on that same repeatable model. To make a model repeatable, you must translate it into a few simple, non-negotiable principles that everyone in the organization understands and lives by. For Olam, one non-negotiable is that managers must live in the rural areas where they source their products. This isn't just a rule, it's the foundation of their culture. It ensures they stay close to the source of their differentiation. This focus on simplicity and repetition is powerful. But how do you ensure you're repeating the right thing? How do you make truly great strategic choices? This brings us to the next challenge for Apex. They have several exciting possibilities for growth, but the leadership team is divided. Some want to go upmarket, others want to expand globally. The meetings are becoming contentious, driven by opinion and politics, not logic. They need a better way to decide. This is the problem that A.G. Lafley, Roger Martin, and their co-authors tackle in Bringing Science to the Art of Strategy. They argue that for all its number crunching, conventional strategic planning is not actually scientific. A true scientific method doesn't just analyze data, It starts by creating novel hypotheses and then designs specific tests to see if they hold up. Their approach transforms the strategy process from a political debate into a collaborative search for truth. It's a 7-step process, but the core idea is a profound shift in mindset. Instead of arguing about what should we do, you start by asking, what might we do? You begin by generating several mutually exclusive strategic possibilities. Not just one plan, but several happy stories describing how the company might succeed. One might be to acquire a competitor. Another might be to launch a new brand. A third might be to enter a new channel. It's a creative act, not an analytical one. The real magic happens in the next step. For each possibility, you don't argue about whether it will work. Instead, you ask a different question. What would have to be true for this possibility to be a brilliant choice? This simple question changes everything. A skeptic, instead of saying that will never work, can now say, for me to believe in this, I would have to see that customers are willing to pay a 20% premium. That statement isn't an attack, it's a condition. It's a testable hypothesis. You create a list of all the conditions that must hold true for each possibility. Then, you identify the biggest barriers, the conditions you are most worried about. And then, and only then, do you unleash the analysts. Their job is not to do a broad, inch-deep analysis of everything. It's to conduct a narrow, mile-deep investigation to test those specific, critical barrier conditions. The authors share the incredible story of how Procter & Gamble used this exact process to reinvent the Olay brand. P&G had a choice. They could try to turn the tired-down market oil of Olay into a major player, or they could spend billions to buy a premium skincare brand. One of their possibilities was a radical idea: reinvent Olay as a masstige product, a prestige-quality cream sold in mass-market stores like Walmart. The team identified the conditions that would have to be true for this to work. The biggest barrier was pricing. What was the sweet spot? They started testing. At $12.99, they got a good response, but it was mostly from existing mass-market shoppers. At $15.99, purchase intent dropped dramatically. But at $18.99, something amazing happened. Purchase intent shot way up. At that price, they weren't just trading up mass shoppers. They were attracting a whole new customer, the department store shopper, who saw in $18.99 cream in a drugstore and thought, this must be a great value. P&G had discovered a new market segment. The Olay brand, once dismissed as oil for old ladies, went on to surpass $2.5 billion in annual sales. This breakthrough would never have happened through a traditional planning process. It came from asking the right questions. As Apex grows into a large, complex organization, they face another set of challenges. They have a great strategy, but what about all the things that could go wrong? The world is full of risk. This leads us to the work of Robert Kaplan and Annette Mikes, who provide a new framework for managing risks. They argue that risk management is too often treated as a compliance issue, a boring checklist of rules. This is a huge mistake, because not all risks are the same. They fall into 3 distinct categories, and each requires a different approach. Category 1. Preventable risks. These are internal risks, from unauthorized or illegal actions to breakdowns in routine processes. Think of a rogue trader or an employee accepting a bribe. These are bad things you should try to eliminate completely through rules, internal controls, and a strong culture of integrity. Category 2. Strategy risks. These are the risks you voluntarily take to generate returns. A bank takes on credit risk when it lends money. A pharmaceutical company takes on RAND risk when it develops a new drug. You don't want to eliminate these risks, you want to manage them. The goal is to reduce the probability of a negative outcome and improve your ability to contain it if it happens. This can't be done with a rulebook. It requires open, honest dialogue and debate. Category 3. External risks. These are risks that arise from outside the company and are beyond your control. Think of a major earthquake, a political revolution, or a global pandemic. You can't prevent these events, so your focus must be on identification and mitigation, how to reduce their impact if they occur. This is where tools like scenario planning and wargaming come in. The great challenge, the authors say, is that we are psychologically wired to be bad at talking about risk. We are overconfident. We suffer from confirmation bias, seeking out information that supports our views and ignoring warnings. Effective risk management processes must be designed to counteract these natural human biases, forcing us to confront uncomfortable possibilities. By now, Clara's company, Apex Innovations, has become a formidable player in its industry. It's lean, adaptive, and resilient. But as she looks at the landscape in the 2010s and beyond, she sees a new species of company emerging, one that seems to be playing by a completely different set of rules. Companies like Uber, which owns no cars. Airbnb, which owns no real estate. Alibaba, which holds no inventory. This is the dawn of the platform era, and it requires a new understanding of strategy, explained brilliantly by Marshall Van Alstyne and his co-authors in Pipelines, Platforms, and the New Rules of Strategy. For over a century, they explain, the dominant business model has been the pipeline. Businesses create value by controlling a linear series of activities, the classic value chain. A company buys raw materials, transforms them into a product, and pushes it out to customers. Value is created inside the firm and flows one way. A platform, on the other hand, creates value by facilitating exchanges between two or more independent groups, usually producers and consumers. The platform doesn't own the means of production, it creates the means of connection. Its chief assets are not physical inventory, but information and interactions. This shift from pipeline to platform involves three fundamental changes in strategy. 1. From resource control to resource orchestration. In a pipeline, you win by controlling scarce, valuable assets. In a platform, the critical asset is the community and the resources of its members. The network is the asset. 2. From internal optimization to external interaction. Pipelines focus on optimizing their internal processes. Platforms focus on facilitating interactions between outside producers and consumers. The emphasis shifts from dictating processes to persuading participants. 3. From a focus on customer value to a focus on ecosystem value. Pipelines try to maximize the value of each individual customer. Platforms try to maximize the total value of the entire ecosystem. Sometimes this means subsidizing one side of the market to attract the other. For example, Adobe gives away its PDF reader for free to build a large user base, which creates a market for people who will pay for its PDF creation software. The engine of a platform is what economists call network effects. The more users who join the platform, the more valuable it becomes for everyone. More riders on Uber attract more drivers, which reduces wait times, which attracts more riders. It's a virtuous cycle that can produce monopolies at breathtaking speed. For a traditional pipeline company like Apex, this is a terrifying new form of competition. It can emerge from a completely unrelated industry. Swatch knows how to compete with Timex. But now it has to compete with Apple. Siemens knows how to compete with Honeywell and thermostats, but now it has to compete with Google's Nest. The old strategic frameworks, like Porter's 5 forces, need an update. In the old world, external forces were seen as threats that extracted value. You wanted to build barriers against them. In the platform world, External forces, like a community of app developers, can be your greatest asset. They add value to your business. As Apex grapples with this new reality, Clara starts to feel that something is missing. The company is successful, profitable, and strategically sound. But why do they exist? What is their ultimate contribution? The pursuit of profit alone feels hollow. This brings us to the penultimate, and perhaps most profound, lesson in our strategic journey. Put purpose at the core of your strategy. Thomas Malnight and his co-authors conducted a global study of high-growth companies. They expected to find that growth was driven by creating new markets or changing the rules of the game. They found those things, but they also found a fourth, unexpected driver: purpose. For most companies, purpose is an add-on. It's a nice thing to have for corporate social responsibility reports and employee morale. But the highest performing companies, the authors discovered, had moved purpose from the periphery of their strategy right to its core. They used it as a powerful engine for growth. A core purpose, they explain, plays two critical strategic roles. First, it helps you redefine the playing field. Most companies spend their lives fighting for market share in a single, crowded arena. A guiding purpose allows you to lift your head up and see the larger ecosystem of opportunities around you. Consider the pet food industry. The two leaders are Purina and Mars Pet Care. Both have very similar purposes: a better world for pets, but they've used that purpose in very different ways. Purina has largely stayed on the pet food playing field. Mars Pet Care, guided by its purpose, has expanded into the broader field of pet health. They acquired a chain of veterinary hospitals. Then another. They are now moving into pet activity monitoring with smart collars. Their purpose is their North Star, guiding their expansion into a vast and interconnected ecosystem of pet care. Second, a core purpose helps you reshape your value proposition. Instead of just selling products, you start solving your customers' deeper problems. Take the Indian financial services company Mahindra Finance. Their parent company's purpose is captured in a single word: rise. It's a commitment to helping people improve their lives. Guided by this purpose, Mahindra Finance decided to offer vehicle loans in rural India, a market most banks ignored. To do this, they had to reinvent their processes. They hired locals who understood the dialects and the culture. They built trust. Then, they stretched their value proposition. They helped these same customers get insurance for their tractors and their health. Then they moved into housing finance. Their purpose of helping rural citizens rise allowed them to build a deep, trusted relationship with their customers, which in turn created multiple streams of revenue and made them the largest rural non-banking financial company in India. Having a purpose is not enough. The purpose must be authentic, and it must drive every strategic decision. Finally, to stay ahead in this ever-changing world, Clara and her team at Apex need one more thing. They need to be able to break free from conventional thinking, again and again. Strategy, as Adam Brandenburger reminds us, is not just an analytical exercise. Strategy needs creativity. Analytical tools are essential for understanding the world as it is. But to reshape it, you need a different toolkit, one designed to spark new ideas. Brandenburger offers 4 powerful lenses for creative thinking. 1. Contrast. This is about identifying and challenging the core assumptions that everyone in your industry takes for granted. When Netflix started, the conventional wisdom was that a video rental business needed physical stores and had to charge high fees for new releases and late fees to make money. Netflix challenged every one of those assumptions. Why do we need a physical store? Let's mail the DVDs. Why charge late fees? Let's use a subscription model. They built a new model by contradicting the status quo. 2. Combination. This is about connecting things that have traditionally been separate. Steve Jobs famously said that creativity is just connecting things. Apple and Nike did this when they connected shoes and music with the Nike Plus iPod. Today, car companies and mobility services are combining to create integrated transportation platforms. Look for ways to link products and services, even with competitors, to create new value. 3. Constraint. We usually think of constraints as limitations. But artists know that constraints can be a powerful source of creativity. The strategy here is to look at your weaknesses and ask how they could become your strengths. When Tesla started, it had a huge weakness. It had no dealership network. But this became a strength. It allowed them to sell directly to consumers, controlling the customer experience and the price, without the conflict of interest that traditional dealers have in selling electric cars over gasoline ones. 4. Context. This is about looking for solutions in entirely different domains. It's a form of strategic analogy. The invention of Velcro was inspired by the burrs from a plant. Intel, looking for a way to differentiate its microprocessors, looked outside the tech industry to consumer products like Teflon and NutraSweet and came up with the Intel Inside campaign, branding a previously invisible component. Ask yourself, who has solved a problem like mine in a completely different world? Through this entire journey, from a lean startup to a global powerhouse, Clara and Apex have evolved. They have learned that strategy is not a static plan, but a dynamic process of search, adaptation, creativity, and risk management. But there is one final, ultimate evolution. A capstone idea that ties everything together. It comes from the legendary Michael E. Porter and his colleague Mark Kramer. And it is a call to redefine the very purpose of capitalism. It is the idea of creating shared value. For too long, they argue, business and society have been pitted against each other. Companies have been seen as prospering at the expense of the community. The solution, we were told, was corporate social responsibility (CSR), essentially, for companies to give back some of their profits through charity to make up for the harm they might be causing. Porter and Kramer argue that this is a fundamentally flawed model. The solution is not for business to do less harm or to give back more. The solution lies in the principle of shared value, which involves creating economic value in a way that also creates value for society by addressing its needs and challenges. This is not about philanthropy or social responsibility. It is a new way to achieve economic success. It is the next major transformation of business thinking. Policies and operating practices that enhance a company's competitiveness while simultaneously advancing the economic and social conditions in the communities where it operates. They identify 3 ways that companies can do this. First, by reconceiving products and markets. Companies can create products and services that meet societal needs. Food companies can focus on nutrition, not just taste and quantity. Tech companies can help utilities conserve power. There are immense opportunities in serving disadvantaged communities and developing countries, not as charity cases, in a way that is profitable and scalable. Vodafone's mobile banking service in Kenya signed up 10 million customers in 3 years, and now represents 11% of the country's GDP, all while helping the poor save money securely. Second, by redefining productivity in the value chain. Societal problems can create economic costs in a company's value chain. Pollution is not just bad for the environment, it's a sign of wasted resources. Poor employee health and safety lowers productivity. Walmart saved $200 million by reducing its packaging and rerouting its trucks to cut 100 million miles from its delivery routes. They saved money and reduced carbon emissions. This is shared value. Third, by enabling local cluster development. A company's success is affected by the supporting companies and infrastructure around it. Think of Silicon Valley. No single company created it. It's a cluster of universities, venture capital firms, specialized suppliers, and a talented workforce. A company can create shared value by helping to build and improve these clusters. Nestlé does this by working intensively with small coffee growers, helping them improve their farming practices and yields. This secures Nestlé's supply of high-quality coffee and dramatically increases the farmers' incomes. Creating shared value is the ultimate win-win. It is a more sophisticated form of capitalism, one that recognizes that the most powerful way to address society's pressing challenges is not through charity, but by harnessing the engine of business and competition. It is the ultimate purpose that can guide any company's strategy. It is the North Star for Clara and for Apex, the final and most powerful lesson on their long journey. Commentary. As we step back and look at this incredible collection of ideas, a single powerful theme emerges. The old world of strategy was about building a fortress. It was about stability, predictability, and defense. You would spend months crafting a perfect plan, build a deep moat around your business, and then defend that position for as long as you could. The new world of strategy, as revealed in these essays, is not about building a fortress. It's about learning to sail on an unpredictable ocean. It's a world of movement, adaptation, and discovery. Your strategy is not a map, it's a compass. It gives you a direction, a purpose, but you must constantly adjust your sails to the shifting winds and currents. The most profound lesson here is that strategy is not something you have, it is something you do. It is a living, breathing process. It's the curiosity to get out of the building and listen to your customers. It's the humility to accept that your advantages are temporary. It's the courage to question the assumptions everyone else takes for granted. And it is the wisdom to see that the greatest business opportunities are not found in taking from society, but in contributing to it. So, how can you start applying these powerful ideas to your own life, right now? Let me leave you with 3 simple actions. First, the next time you are working on a project, whether it's for school, a club, or a personal passion, resist the urge to argue about whether your idea will work. Instead, ask the magic question: what would have to be true for this to be a massive success? Make a list of those conditions. Then, figure out the quickest, cheapest way to test the one you are most doubtful about. This single shift will transform the way you approach any challenge. Second, start training yourself to see the world through the jobs to be done lens. The next time you see someone using a product or service, ask yourself, what job are they really hiring it to do? What is their deeper goal? Is it about saving time, gaining status, feeling safe, connecting with others? The more you practice this, the more you will start to see unmet needs and opportunities everywhere. It is the foundational skill of every great innovator and strategist. And third, find your purpose. It doesn't have to be on the grand scale of solving world hunger. What is the unique value that you, or your team, or your idea, brings to the world? What is the positive change you want to make? Let that purpose be your compass. When you are faced with a difficult choice or a confusing path, let it guide your decisions. A clear purpose doesn't just make your work more meaningful. As we've seen, it makes it more successful. That was a summary of HBR's 10 must-reads on strategy, Volume 2. We've journeyed through the core insights today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a picture of the Grand Canyon. It can give you a sense of its scale and beauty, but it can never replace the feeling of standing on the edge, of experiencing it for yourself. The real magic in this book happens when you sit with these essays, when a particular story or a single elegant framework clicks in your mind and changes the way you see a problem. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've discussed has sparked a light in you, I encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just learning, it's an experience that can genuinely upgrade your entire way of thinking. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that this work is making a difference, and it ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.